All right, we're back on the Down Beach Buzz podcast with Sherry Lilienfeld of eXp Realty. Just wanted to get a cup of coffee, prepare, take some deep breaths, because my all-time favorite part of the show is year-end market stats, because I know Sherry is a numbers person. Sherry, take over. Give us some concept of, over the past 12 months, how has Ventnor, Margate, and Longport, how have we done over the past 12 months in regards to real estate?
Right. So I'm just going to give you a big picture view of Ventnor, Margate, Longport, the residential market that does not include condos, which actually are a very big percentage of what's been selling, close to 50%. Actually, in Longport, it was there were more condos sold in Longport than homes. But just to compare what 2024 has been doing to 2025. So yeah, let's look at Margate. The number of units sold, these are residential homes in Margate in 2025, was 122 compared to 2024, which was 111. So that means 10% more homes, single family homes, were sold in Margate 2025. And we're not even at the end of the year. There's another week and a half or whatever. So there might be a few more, but let's just say 10% more homes sold, single family homes in 2025. Now, if we look at the median price, and I look at the median price because I don't like doing averages. When you're taking 111, 122 homes and you have a few outliers like $7-8 million homes, $6-8 million. I mean, you're doing an average. It can skew the average price. I will tell you the average price is much higher than the median price. And the median price means you have an equal number of homes sold below that number and above. It's right in the center. If you look at the median price from 2025 at 1.6 versus 2024, 1.575, it is 2%. It is basically unchanged. That's good for buyers because that means the pricing is stable. What's been selling, the pricing is pretty stable. So that's good news for the buyers, people that have been waiting. And then the Ventnor units sold. What's happening in Ventnor? This really surprised me when I did these numbers, because I did Margate first and I saw, okay, Margate's up 10%. Ventnor's usually right around there. 25, only 96 units got sold versus 111 in 2024. So Ventnor is down 14%, where Margate's up 10%. The only way I could explain that is that people when the prices started skyrocketing in Margate, a lot of people started looking in Ventnor. We're buying in Ventnor 2024. But then as the pricing stabilized, right, now they're back in Margate. I mean, that's the only way I can explain it. But anyway, let's look at the median price in Ventnor, because it's always less than the median price in Ventnor is much less than Margate. Remember, Margate was around 1.6 million, where the median price in Ventnor is 825, and last year was 792. 4% change. Again, nothing really significant. So pricing in Ventnor is also fairly stable. So Margate stable pricing, Ventnor stable pricing. Margate number of units sold up 10%, Ventnor's down 14%. Crazy. Anyway, I just always like to look at Longport. Longport, the numbers are so small. Like in general, we know Longport's smaller town, much less houses. Look, we went from 17 homes in 2025 to 16. Even though it's 6%, I say it's really pretty stable, Longport. And then let's look at the average price. 0.5% change, again, stable. So bottom line, what I'm saying is pricing stabilizing. And now with Paul talking about, interest rates are coming down, even though our market's not as tied to interest rates, if people can pull equity out of their homes, I still feel it's going to be a strong market in the Down Beach area coming into 2026. So any questions, comments? Anybody want to write in with some comments? Yes.
Yeah, Miss Lilienfeld, I have a question here for you.
Okay.
So Ventnor recently passed an ordinance or a resolution to extend their tax abatement encouraging new construction. In the beginning, when I heard that years ago, I go, that's a good idea. Get rid of some of the older stock, because Ventnor had something like 50% at least or more of older housing stock. But now you and I talk more about, boy, it seems like everyone just doesn't want to buy a house that's been around for a while, a classic home. They want to rip it down. Do these tax abatements, do they encourage? Well, they do. They encourage new construction. But the downside is something that kind of upsets us a little bit, that we're losing the traditional character of the Down Beach area, huh?
Well, I know for me, because you and I first got into real estate, Zach and I were doing rehabs. We would always take a home and maintain it and just, improve it, improve the kitchen, the bathrooms. Seeing these older homes with a lot of great construction, beautiful character. It's upsetting to me to see a lot of nice homes being torn down. I was in the building department and they were saying, like, there was a house that was like 10 or 15 years old that someone was tearing down. Like, why would you tear down a 10 or 15-year-old home? But people are doing that, and from a sustainability standpoint, it's very wasteful. There's so much in a house, and then they're tearing it down and bringing it to a landfill. I had a home I sold a few years ago, and there were solar panels on top. And again, sustainable Sherry, everyone wants to do the solar panels. Solar panels were only 4 years old. There was a contract on them. The companies that install solar panels don't have any recycling program, can't take it back. So all this stuff is going into a landfill. So to answer your question in a long way, yes, I would prefer to see homes that are built really well with great character being brought back to their original splendor and charm, but it's not happening.
Got another email that came in. This might have been a fax. We have a lot of people that watch us that are still using fax machines, and I'm surprised by that, but whatever. Sustainable Sherry, if I can call you that, the Down Beach Buzz podcast. Last night we were watching the Margate Commission meeting, and it was pretty good. There seemed to be some, love going around. It was pleasant, not too much yelling going on. It was good. And the technology's getting good. It's easy to watch the meetings. Pat Moran, the business admin, doing a great job tweaking the system so it sounds great when you watch the commission meeting, and it looks great, high definition. Not everybody always remembers to turn their mic on, but they'll figure that out. That's no big deal. But one of the questions we had, Ed Dennis, our engineer from Remington and Vernick, great guy, he actually said something to the effect that the bid, the RFP that went out to pave the parking lot that used to be a gas station, no bidders. Nobody bid, so they might have to go out to bid again, and they might have to change the parameters of the bid. And I asked Sherry, is that kind of weird? What do you think is the issue of why the simple paving of a parcel of land, why couldn't they get a bidder for just paving a lot? What do you think? What's your guess?
This is only a guess. I did try to confirm it, but some people that come to the meetings know that I constantly go up to the mic, and whenever there's a city project, I ask them what type of green infrastructure are you incorporating into this project. With this parking lot, I was told that they will have pervious asphalt. What pervious asphalt is, it's asphalt that allows drainage, which we desperately need on this island. With too much impervious coverage, which means there's no drainage, there's no place for the water to go, and it sinks. They heard me, they listened to me, so my guess is they put in their spec that they want a contractor who's going to do pervious asphalt. And when you do pervious asphalt, it is more expensive because you have to do layers underneath for drainage of stone where the water can go into. My guess, and again, it's not confirmed, is that none of these contractors who do this asphalt want to or know how to do the pervious asphalt, which when I go online and I Google it, and I encourage our viewers to look, lots of townships do it all the time and it's common. Why we can't find someone on the island that can bid on this, I don't know. But again, it's a guess and I'm waiting for confirmation. But don't you think it's odd that there's no contractors bidding on this parking lot?
I thought that was crazy because it's a pretty simple job, I would assume. So they're going to change the parameters, but we'll find out soon. Ed will get back to you and let you know if it was the pervious drainage or not pavers, but the actual asphalt. Pervious asphalt may have been maybe there's not enough contractors that have experience in that. Is that possible? I saw you roll your eyes there.
I rolled my eyes because, again, we are on an island, a barrier island, where we have 90% impervious space. Every contractor that does hardscaping should know something about pervious space. On top of it, when these builders go to zoning and they want to get, go into the setbacks, they spec into their design that they need pervious pavers. Those are different. That's when you have space between your pavers so it can drain. And again, there's more that's involved to make your hardscaping pervious because you have to have the drainage level involved. There's layers involved. So if there's no contractors that know how to do this, that is a huge problem. And everybody who owns a home here needs to constantly think about, there we go, Sustainable Sherry, needs to think about what type of landscaping and hardscaping they're using and consider impervious hardscape options. So anyway, yes. So on top of, Sustainable Sherry has something else to report. Thank you. What are we doing?
Wait a second. I'm just waiting. There's a new dance coming up. It's a new dance there. I think the other night at Memories or Maynard's when you guys were out late, you were trying this new dance out. Is that true?
I just want to say something. No, I wasn't at Memories or Maynard's. I was anyway, but I'd like everybody to know this is an AI generated dancer. That is not me.
Are you kidding? Do you really think people think that's really you? Come on.
I don't know. And just to say, when you use AI, you're supposed to make the AI. Usually people improve their physique, like they make themselves look thinner and stuff. I think she's a little bit too hippie. I don't know. I'm sorry. That's not how I'm built. But she's very cute. Are you coming back on the screen or where'd you go?
Hold on a second right there. So listen, this is not about trying to fake people out that this must be really Sherry. It's a cartoon, basically, is what it is.
And I love cartoons, and I love having fun, and I love a good theme. And thank you. I love what you do with Sustainable Sherry.
Sweet.
Sustainable
Sweet baby
Sherry
Jesus,
does have one thing to report, which is very, very, very exciting. For those viewers who've been watching for the last couple of years, you know that I introduced in October 2023 to Margate an ordinance for our contractors to control the construction dust. And what that basically means is instead of cutting your AZAC and all this plastic stuff and cutting your pavers without any type of hood or wet saw, they need to contain it. So put a tarp down under your tools. There's a hood and a vacuum attachment you can use, or if it's a wet saw, use the water to contain all of that dust. And that was introduced in October 2023. That ordinance has caught on. It's in 23 municipalities throughout Jersey, including North Jersey, by the way. Elizabeth adopted it. It's all over the state in multiple municipalities. At the League of Municipalities, which is when every municipality comes in to a big convention in Atlantic City, there's 16,000 attendees. They had a resolution committee. They voted for every township to adopt this through every municipality. So we got endorsement from the League of Municipalities. But what's really, really exciting now is this law to contain construction pollution is now introduced at the state level. It was pre-filed for session in Assembly last week, and hopefully Mikey Sherrill will, when it hits her desk, she'll sign off on it. So it's going through legislation right now in the state level. So exciting. And I just want everyone to know this started in Margate, and it's very simple to employ. It's inexpensive. And on another note, if you see contractors making a huge mess, you're supposed to call the building department. It's best if you take pictures and you email them and you send it to them. Say, this is a work site. They're cutting this stuff. It's blowing all over. And it's really windy now. If they're blowing that stuff now, it's going all through Margate. So just notify your local municipality, the building department. That's who you call. That's who you notify. But anyway, it's very exciting. So sorry, I get real excited when I talk about sustainable Sherry stuff.
Yeah, you're kidding me. So, okay, I'm going to talk about some things that you may or may not want to comment on, okay? I like when you say next, because we don't know if this is true or not, but we can tell by, well, when I say something, we can tell how you feel about it based on your facial expression. And that's all that we got to do. We can read you, sustainable Sherry. So, affordable housing's not going away. Thoughts or next?
Well, it's the state mandate. The problem is there's not big development. So when you do affordable housing and you have, let's say you're building a 10-unit property, I think it's 20% need to be affordable, and there's standards on what affordable means. But I don't see any development like that going on. So where are you putting this? Yes,
I was going to ask you, where do you think they might squeeze some of this affordable housing in? Because as you know, Ventnor complied with the state mandates. Margate did not. I'm not saying one is right or wrong, but these two towns side by side are both approaching the Mount Laurel doctrine, where affordable housing, they've been trying to get that going for decades. Why would Margate think this is the better way and Ventnor goes this way? I have a theory, but I don't know if I should tell you because I don't want to turn you red, even more red than you are.
I'd like to hear your theory.
Well, what happens is if you don't comply, a builder can come in and just go right around the municipality and build what they want. And then, the overbuilt thing, the example that's being talked about more and more, and that is the excuse. Maybe the word excuse is not right, but some towns are saying, we got no more buildable land. But bear in mind, you can knock something down and do a couple, you could do 10, multifamily units, and only a small portion has to be somewhat cheaper than the rest of the units. So we could see that happening. Crazy conspiracy theory. I don't know. I don't have my tinfoil hat, but that parking lot potentially could be a multifamily unit, affordable housing, but that's a long shot. They talk about, it sounds horrible, but the church and the school on Jerome Avenue, if that consolidates from the Archdiocese, or it may be even next to Lucy at that restaurant, that risky high-rise that they talked about years ago. You never know, but the point is, Margate exposes themselves somewhat, or maybe they believe that the law is on their side. But I find it interesting, sustainable Sherry, that Ventnor said, we're going to comply, but right next door, Margate said, we're going to take our chances. So I don't know what's right from wrong, but I do find that some towns dismiss it, sort of. But I like to bring it up because I think it's a pretty important thing that's hanging over our head.
It is important, and it is. I agree with you. It was kind of interesting that Ventnor complied, and Margate didn't. Why? I don't know. Yeah, there's a land use individual on the Ventnor Commissioners Board, so he felt it was important to comply. I can't tell you why one wouldn't, because normally they talk to each other and they usually work in unison. So that was kind of surprising.
Yeah, and the other topic, which is very uncomfortable, the reval, the need for reval and reassessment. I can see everybody's point on this, whether you've been around for a long time and you have a pretty, a half decent tax rate, but the new players coming in, you're buying a house in Margate or Ventnor over the past couple of years, you're taking up a greater share of the tax burden. I can see everybody's point, but that is still hanging out there, and the chickens will come home to roost. But so far, most towns have been able to kick that can down the road a little bit. But it's not just in Margate and Ventnor; it's all over the place in Jersey. But for some reason, Denny Levinson, the county executive of Atlantic County, he showed some data that Margate might be one of the towns in Atlantic County that is the most out of whack in regards to valuation. It's off by 50%. So if I was the mayor, if I was the CFO of Margate, it's a tough thing to handle. But if I was in charge, if I was a mayor, I would say, can we deal with this after the election? To be honest, you don't want to deal with this stuff right now.
Yeah, but when they reevaluate, doesn't the rate go down? Theoretically, the rate should go down, right? When they reevaluate, they just want all the values to be more accurate. It doesn't necessarily mean your taxes are going to go up, but they always do. They do. It shouldn't be that way. They just want everybody's home to be valued accurately.
So I do think, to be fair to Margate, I do believe that a part of what they're doing is spot assessments, doing X amount of reassessments every so often to kind of achieve the same thing, and that is tax parity, that everybody is fairly paying the same rate across the board, whether you're in a $10 million home or a home that maybe you purchased many, many years ago for 90 grand. So either way, that's a tough topic. It's uncomfortable, but it certainly is looming. And we're pretty pumped up about the dredging, but where do we send the spoils? So we're going to dredge out the back bays, the channels, the private, the municipal, the lagoons. But Shara, we don't know where to put those spoils or those dredge materials. That's a challenge because they possibly are not clean. And where do you put them? You're going to put them in Shelter Island, in that hole behind Ventnor, how they built up Ventnor Heights many years ago, digging out Shelter Island. What would you do with those spoils? Because you might have to pay to truck those spoils away. You do. That kind of is the way it may happen.
That is beyond sustainable Sherry's scope. But the city has been working on this for 8 years. I think they do want to put it in Shelter Island. That was their plan, but the DEP won't allow them to do that for some reason. It is.
I believe it is risky. I think it's riskier than dredging because all that sediment you got to be pulling up. But John Scott Abbott, the city solicitor, did say the other night that he has a sneaking suspicion, probably more than that a lot of the Back Bay fill, everything getting clogged up, Jerome Avenue behind Amherst, all these areas silted up. Even the Scott's Dock has trouble getting people in and out of the slips. Imagine that. You better come home, better get back in here before 2 o'clock when the tide comes in, tide goes out, whatever. Imagine trying to run a business that way. Even Blue Water Dock, as well as the water park, they did some private dredging, which was helpful. But if everybody doesn't do dredging, sometimes that stuff gets filled back in again. That's a tough one, Sharon. Now that we're watching the Margate Commission and the Ventnor Commission in high definition video with great audio, we can kind of feel for them because these are some big issues that, we're normal people. We don't have all the answers, and they're all very interesting, complex, not one simple answer. But thankfully, we can all join in by watching and see just how difficult it is to run a town, even when the town has a fair amount of money. all these issues when you live by the ocean. And one more question, and that is about Brigantine. Not just about the erosion in Brigantine. Paul talked about that earlier today. But Brigantine has a golf course, and there is some research getting out there that if you are near a golf course, be careful, because the fertilizer and the sprays and the bug sprays that they use to keep the greens, the 18 holes, nice and green and beautiful, well, a lot of that stuff gets into the air, and if you live close by, it could affect your health. That sounds kind of scary. We're not trying to be alarmists, but your thoughts on that type of stuff that gets into the air, especially around golf courses, Sherry?
So when you were talking about it, I immediately started thinking about the construction containment that we do for contractors. And I'm just wondering if there's containment devices that they could use when they fertilize, or I'm not so sure about the bug spray, because obviously you want that in the air, but I could see it being a huge health issue. But there must be some items to contain a good percentage of this from going into the air that people around it are breathing in on a regular basis. And that's the point. The people near the golf course is breathing this in on a regular basis because it does become airborne. Do fertilizers need to be airborne? No, they need to be in the ground. But if they're a spray fertilizer, they're going to be airborne. So again, there must be some kind of hood or something that can be used. And maybe if you know how, yeah, I'm not sure about the whole bug side of it though, but that was my immediate thoughts. I just started thinking containment, but interesting.
Well, if I could ask you one more question before we say goodbye. We're looking at the house that you're representing, 2 North Newark Avenue. It's a Ventnor duplex. There's a 3D tour up there. It's on the market. But can you give us an update of what you're finding? Because I know between us and some other folks we were talking, and some of these types of classic homes, there's a handful of them that we know about. We think they should be purchased by families that want to enjoy these classic homes. But we're finding a lot of, well, too much interest only by developers who want to rip it down and build something new. We know at least a handful of those situations, Cher. What do you think is going to happen as time goes by and developers seem to be the most aggressive purchasers of properties?
I mean, it is the developers that are primary buyers. And even when I was looking in the MLS last night, I was going through when I was doing my market stats, like what's all sold. Most of it was torn down. Most of it. Even houses that are very nice, if it's on a decent lot, they're paying great prices. I was really surprised. I saw a home on the 400 block in Margate. It went for 1.1 million just for the land. We're talking the 400 block of Margate. Yeah, okay, the lot was larger than some other lots. It was a decent sized lot, but I just really feel it is the developers or the people that are tearing down properties that are buying. Unfortunately, this particular property, 2 North Newark, is a legal duplex. To me, this is perfect for someone who wants to be at the shore. They have a limited budget. They want to bring their family. You can rent a unit. You can rent out the downstairs unit and make great money during the summer and have your home mostly paid for. It's 2 bedrooms, 2 full baths. This has an office and a sitting room on the other side. But yeah, it's mostly the developers. And again, when I look back at what sold, what went under contract, it's all tear downs, even nicer homes.
All right.
Sadly.
So, but anyway, what a great podcast. Sherry Lilienfeld of eXp Realty. You can reach out to her at realtysherry.com and keep an eye out for Sustainable Sherry, because she could be lurking somewhere, taking a look to make sure that your environment is clean and safe and a great place to live. All right, Sherry? Peace out.
Thank
Go to
you.
Go to downbeachbuzz.com and join our email newsletter, downbeachbuzz.com. All right. Thank you very much.